We are Black Press. I am Mr. Defined.
And I'm your girl Trish.
Subscribe to this channel for more of your everyday news, everyday information, and how it pertains to us as Black people. So, Trish, you got a certain topic you want to talk about?
I do. So, I was scrolling through the gram the other day and I came across a topic of a man that says he pays $500 in child support and his child's mother is asking him to buy shoes and his wife doesn't want him to. So they're having an argument about that. So I'm going to play the clip so you guys can hear a little bit of the conversation.
I choose between my child and my marriage. And the shit getting old. It getting very old and frustrating. Between your child and your marriage, what is you doing? I mean, like, what's going on? I'm recording, man. No, I ain't recording because you ain't dropping that shit. I don't give a damn about no Facebook, no YouTube, or nothing. No. And I don't care nothing about that. Because my thing is right here. You pay $500 a month. You can drop it. I'm going to put your business out there. You pay $500 fucking dollars a month in child support. It ain't nobody but doing no extra. No shoes, no clothes, no toys, no nothing. Fuck all that. What you talking about, man? My son needs some shoes. I don't give a damn. No, she can get the shoes out the child support money. She get the shoes out the child support money. That's what you pay child support for. The court ordered child support. You ain't got to do shit else. And she ain't gifting nothing else. She should have never took the fucking child support out if she needed more money. You shouldn't feel like that. Why shouldn't I feel like that? That's my fucking child. I don't fuck that child. Fuck you too. I don't give a damn about that. Shoot. Come out to get some extra shoes and you pay $500 fucking dollars a month in child support. You ain't buying no shoes. You ain't buying no fucking shoes. You buy shoes.
So I'm gonna end it there. Like just hearing that small clip of the conversation, how do you feel?
I feel a little bit about both sides.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, One side is the fact that he pays child support,
Mm-hmm.
and um, he his them being married,
Yeah.
or him being married to that woman, that whatever he's sending somewhere else is taking money out of their pockets,
Mm-hmm.
that of the house and the roof over their head that they have. But at the same time, uh, yes, that's a child, and this is why people have to be. Um, you have to determine who you're gonna marry and who you're gonna be with based off of who they are, not just in bed or in life, but actually who they are and
As a
their
person.
values. And um, and that's what the term of being equally yoked
Mm-hmm.
is important. And I was thinking about being equally yoked the other day, and it's so many people think equally yoked is the yolk inside the egg, but and honestly, equally yoked is more so about where the egg is coming from.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are out here and they are one kind of way. They're chicken egg, and you walking around or you living in a house with a goose egg or an Easter egg, right? You can never be equally yoked because what you want, they're different size eggs. They're different mixtures. When they're born, they come out different. They serve a different purpose. And if we're not together and in a matching equally yoked, then my purpose is to take care of my family
Mm-hmm.
and provide above and beyond what my children need. But your purpose is to take care of just you.
Mm-hmm.
So you're like a chicken. Like, if you're a chicken egg, you just want to take care of yourself and peck, peck, peck. But if I'm a duck egg or a goose egg, I have a flock.
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking care of my flock, not just myself. Does that make sense?
It does. It definitely does because in a relationship y'all have to have similar if not the same views. Otherwise it creates division.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as it pertains to the video and the wife not wanting him to take money outside of their household. I do understand both sides of the story because he is paying his due diligence and his child support, and he should be not not saying that he should be praised for doing that because that's something he's supposed to do.
Yeah.
That child didn't ask to be here, so the child has a need and you have to provide it as their parent.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that there has to be an understanding when it comes to like children that's not living with you or children that you're still providing care for but not in your household.
Mm-hmm.
If that child needs something and you're able to provide it, you should be able to provide it or come to some type of means in order to provide for that child. Because again, that child didn't ask to be here. Now, if you don't have it, then that's something different. But you should be able to find the resources to go out and get it. Like you said, you're providing for your flock. Just because you're not together in that household anymore doesn't mean you're not still responsible for that household because you created it. It's like dropping your seed off and just, hey, I'm done with that. I'm moving
Mm-hmm.
on to a different situation, and this is what's more important right now. Yes, it's important, but you still have an extension of yourself out there that's still needing you. So people really have to be careful with who they create children and lives with because you have to think of not only the short term but the long term. What does this relationship look like in different situations?
Mm-hmm.
um People like to say like I catastrophize a lot, but
Yeah.
I like to think of every like just different scenarios before I come to a conclusion of what my solid decision is.
Yeah. I used to have the mantra: expect the worst, hope for the best, and either way, you're not disappointed.
Yeah.
Because if you expected the worst, you're not disappointed because you expected it to happen anyway. But
Hmm.
I think on the same end, the side of seeing where the wife is coming from
Hmm.
is seeing the way it's a lot. There's a lot of families and separated families that are feeling like that. It's like,
Hmm.
all right, if I give you $500, especially if this is what the court has determined that out of how much money I make
Hmm.
and out of how much money you make, in order to evenly give that child what they need to survive at our pay levels, I'm supposed to pay $500.
Hmm.
So if I'm supposed to pay $500, and this is what the court has determined based off of how much money I make,
Hmm.
there shouldn't be. That means them having a system to determine how much money I'm supposed to pay means they considered how much money you make, and therefore, if they consider how much money you make, and they deem that I'm supposed to pay 500, then that means you should be able to use that 500 plus add to it from how much money and what the job that you have in order to provide for that child, for our child.
Hmm.
Because by the legal system and whatever calculations that they came up with, that system determined that our child will best be survived if I pay 500 and you take care of the rest.
But do you think that's to meet the basic needs? Because that's just basic needs. That's just a means of survival. Like when they're going back to school, that's an additional expense. So you still have to pay. You still have to, if especially if they have after school and things of that nature. You still have to buy their uniforms, buy their clothes, buy their sneakers, as the mom was suggesting, or at least help with some of that.
It's not an additional expense.
You don't think so?
No, because if it was an additional expense, then the court would say pay $500 a month and then pay this much right before school. If that's not what the court said, then that's not what he's obligated to do. If the court, if the actual court, the legal system said 500 a month, then that means my 500 a month will go to you, and you need to make sure that you put enough aside put $100 aside in June, July, or in August, or May, June, and July. That way, you got that $300 that you put aside from the 500 that I gave you per the court system to pay for that what you believe is additional. Because when the court system said it, I did what I was supposed to do.
So you think, a parent that just pays their child support is doing what they're supposed to be doing financially for that child?
Financially, yeah.
Yeah.
They are legally.
Legally.
Yeah.
But morally,
if you took me to court and you put me on child support, then that means that you determine that you're gonna let the legal system tell me how much that I have to pay you. And if I don't pay you that $500, you're going back and you're gonna make sure that the legal system forces me to pay you. So if you're dependent on the legal system, then you depend on the amount of money that the legal system determined that I'm supposed to pay, and you use that in order to do the rest to provide for our child. Because as soon as you involve the legal system, you've made your choice. You've made the choice that you're going to pull from my finances in a way that I can't control. So if I can't control it, then you control the finances that I give you in order to make sure that it's enough.
Okay. And I don't see, the only issue that I have with that is that the court, it doesn't include all the other expenses of the child. So that I just feel like it's basic needs for the child to be met. Yes, by a legal stance, but there's other things. Suppose the child wants to participate in some type of activity. They have things where you have to bring the whole classroom, snack days, stuff like that. It should be both parents responsible for that,
It's not my problem.
not just one.
That's not my problem. And I'm saying this for men. I'm not saying this as what I do, because for me, if I'm going to make sure my son is taken care of, that's me. But for men as a whole, it's not my problem. If the $500 a month is not enough, then you go back to the court. Go back to the court, say it's not enough. We'll re-adjudicate all of this stuff, and then the court will decide if I need to pay more. If I need to pay more, and then you don't tell me that he needs shoes, or he needs this to pay for snack day, or he needs this to pay for band practice. He needs some new reeds for his saxophone. No, you tell the court that and let them decide, because guess what the court's going to do? The court is going to look at your finances again. They're going to look at my finances again and determine how much I'm supposed to pay.
So what if
it's not enough?
What if that keeps the child from branching out into different things that they want to venture out into? That holds the child back. That's like, oh, if the court doesn't say that that's included, you're not doing it. And I'm just speaking from how some people perceive it, because me myself, when my kids are going back to school, I don't depend on somebody else to help me to do it.
Yeah.
I put aside I know they're going back to school in August. I'm putting aside all the way like May, June, when they get out of school.
Yeah.
I'm putting aside money to make sure that they have everything they need in order to be successful in school, and in order to not lack for nothing. So my kids lack for nothing. I make sure I meet their needs outside of what's provided to me in form of child support.
That's my point.
But not
You're proving my point.
But not everybody thinks like that.
Then guess what? Everybody else is wrong.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing: in order to put that money aside, so if I'm giving $500 a month, I'm paying a car note. That's a car note that I don't have. Like I don't have that car, but I'm paying the amount of a car note. So that money I'm having to make sacrifice because I'm paying for a car that I don't own because I never even got it because I had to send that money to you to take care of our son. So if I have to make those sacrifices on my end, you need to make the sacrifices on your end to make it work. Guess what? If it's not enough, maybe you should get a job that makes more money. Because in the job that I have, I am making it work with that $500 going out of my pocket every month.
But that's not always possible to say, oh, just make a job or get a job that pays more money. There's different things that go into it. Because if you have the child most of the time, your time is going into that child. Not saying that you should be paid for it because that's something that you kind of voluntarily did,
Yeah.
right? But in going back to school, there's expenses with that. You still have to have childcare expenses, and that's kind of included in child support too. So that's kind of outside of the
Mm-hmm.
argument. But
Because the court system asks, they ask
mhm,
all the extra stuff.
yeah,
They ask what are the expenses? Do you pay for health care?
hmm
Is the health care covered? Or do you pay for dental? Do you pay for any special cream that they have to have? Do you pay for any specific medicines? So all of that is taken into consideration when the court system makes those calculations of how much I'm supposed to pay. So that's what I'm saying is if the court has they have done this for decades of making sure that the money is designated for that child.
hmm
And if that's what they say I'm supposed to pay based off of my income, I'm paying based off of my income. And if you can't raise your income in order to meet the expectations that you have for our child,
so you think is so you I'll pause right there. So you think like if a child wants to participate in like some type of extracurricular activity that has an expense with it, you think that's something that the parent is like suggesting to the child?
yeah,
Because
I'm saying that if if our son wants to do this
mhm,
and you decided that you think he should do it,
mhm.
then you need to come up with the funds because the funds that I came up with was the funds that you got on the first.
So
Those are the funds that you got on the first. And here's the thing. You didn't a lot of times, I'm not saying every time, but a lot of times that custodial parent will say, he's doing this.
mhm,
You need to give me some money. So you've already decided he's doing it.
mhm.
He's expressed interest. You've decided he's doing it. Now you want me to give financially to something that I never made a decision on. So if you
So
have those decision, and that's either in the paperwork too.
mhm,
Which parent has the decision making responsibility? If you have in documents that you are the one that makes the major decisions, then you by the burden or by the could be a burden or by the decree that you make the decisions by that same decree you are the ones that pays for those extra decisions.
um, I just wish in a perfect world parents can get along, you know,
Yeah.
and have that conversation where, hey, our child is interested in this. It costs this much. I know you're paying X amount in child support. Do you think you can allocate a little bit towards this expense? I'm gonna put 50 or 75% of it. Do you think you can come up with the 25%?
And then if he says no, I can't afford it. Now he's a deadbeat because he can't afford it.
Yeah.
He's in there
Dead.
scraping. He's living in that one bedroom apartment or one studio apartment
hmm
because he has to shell out $500 a month to a car that he don't own or ever seen in his life.
But that's a decision and a choice that he
Right.
made. That's the consequence.
No. the consequence was them separating.
Yeah.
This decision that he made is not always based off of him leaving the woman. And it's actually very often that the woman leaves the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So if the woman leaves the relationship, on the other side, should that not be her consequence to have to fit more of the bill for supporting her child if she chose not to be with the father?
So
Is that not? Should that not be considered in the consequences of leaving?
so a person leaving, regardless of the matter or the law of separation, degrees of separation, I like to call it. Um, I I'm not sure that it should be considered, but I see where it does, because if you make this family,
Mm-hmm.
you're responsible for this family's upkeep. You're
Success.
responsible for this family's success. You're responsible to make sure that there's bread on the table for this family.
Mm-hmm.
You could the table is made. You sat at the table and you added extra chairs to the table.
Right.
You have to make sure everybody that's sitting at that table is fed.
Mm-hmm.
That's something you're responsible for. Now, if you decide to get up and walk from that table is still there, and the people are still sitting at those tables.
Yeah.
So you have to still make sure that they are fed.
And more often than not, she's getting up, taking the table and the chairs and the kids sitting in the chairs and saying, "Now you need to help me support this table." You picked up the whole table,
Mhm.
put it on U-Haul, took all the kids. You took the whole table. Now you want me to pay for the legs to go under it?
So in situations where like the mom leaves
Mm-hmm.
and she takes a kid, because it can be dads too, and
Yeah.
leaves and take the kids. It's very rare
Yeah.
because having children is so not a burden, but it's so much. It's so taxing on yourself.
Yeah.
But the mom gets up and leaves, and she needs support for the children. I can go so many ways,
Right.
because the dad can be like, "Oh, she left, bye,"
Yeah.
or he can be like, "Oh, she left. No, I want my family. Come back. I still want my family together. I still
Mm-hmm.
want to provide for y'all. I still want this unit. I want to make it work." But she's like, "No, I moved on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in this relationship, and what you saying doesn't matter. You're
Yeah.
crying crocodile
Yeah.
tears."
Right. Until
So,
she needs some money for them shoes.
yeah.
Now it's our children, our son. But
But
before it was, I'm taking my son
son.
and I'm taking his table. Subscribe to this channel for more of your everyday news, everyday information, and how it pertains to us black people.